Hey everyone, how you doing today? It's Gary Wise here from Wise Leadership Solutions. This was originally going to be a live event that was going to stream on our LinkedIn channel, but then just we got overcome by events. It's the holiday season. We got some things coming up today, and we decided to go ahead and just stream this early and get this out to everyone because I hate canceling things that we say we're going to do. I think it's very important as a leader that you do your very best to stick to the plan. And if you're going to change plans, you've got to really have a good reason as to why you're especially going to cancel something. We should have recognized a long time ago if we were going to cancel an event. When in doubt, pull it to the left and try to get it done and do everything right the first time. Today, the goal is we're going to be talking about, how to build and how to work with teams that want to become cohesive, teams that want to come together, teams that want to not just come together, but they want to work together and they want to enjoy being around one another. Cohesiveness is essentially when you think about glue, when you think about things that are going to combine, unify, purpose of mission, purpose of goal, purpose of whatever it is that your team is working towards. And why does this matter to you? That's going to be the whole point of today's conversation. Why do you care as a leader? Why should your team members care as leaders at their own levels if everyone is cohesive and willing to talk about the things that are causing them to possibly not be as unified as you would like them to be? Today's society, today's world, communication is happening all across the board at multiple levels. It's happening across continents, it's across time zones. When I was in the service, you'd have one time zone that we were planning an operation in and three different other time zones that people would be dialing in, all to talk about one operation that we all had to understand what was happening there. That happens not just in the military, that happens in everyone's environment. My son was doing a class online virtually and his teacher was in a different time zone. And he would have to coordinate with that teacher to make sure that things would line up, that they could meet at the same time, at the correct time to accomplish their goal. And so having the ability to recognize what your team needs to unify is going to be important. And we're going to discuss some of that today. We're going to go over some practical strategies. It's not going to be anything mind-blowing. Some of this might be new to you if you're new to leadership or if you're new to stepping into the arena, as I say. We've all heard that before about the man in the arena. You think back to the days of the people that watched the rodeo. You see that cowboy out there getting onto that bucking bronco or trying to ride that bull. And you think about the courage that it would take to do something like that. And everybody's got an opinion. Everyone's got an opinion of what that person should do or should not do or how they should do it or how they can better help. There's an opinion of the bull. There's an opinion of the cowboy. There's an opinion of the clown that's out there trying to distract the bull so they can get the cowboy to safety. But the question is going to be are you willing to step into the arena? And once you put on the title of leader, once you take on the title of person that's here to help other people, someone's going to possibly judge you and they're going to judge the way you're doing things. And that's okay. That comes with the territory. You just have to understand that when you come into that arena. And some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today will hopefully help you when you're in those positions. Why is it important for the Ocala area in particular? If you did not know, I'm headquartered here out of Ocala, Florida. This is where I retired to when I left the military in 2022. Work with Vanguard High School and their Navy Junior ROTC here in Southeast Ocala. It's kind of cold here today, so that's why I'm kind of wearing the hoodie and haven't shaved my face in a couple of days because we're on break. My family and I spent the morning at the Silver Springs Park walking around and seeing the monkeys and seeing the manatees in the water, just enjoying a beautiful day. And I talk about Ocala often in my writing and in the leadership thoughts that I'm putting out into the universe because Ocala is experiencing some rapid growth and change. There are a lot of major projects happening here. You got the World Equestrian Center expanding, and I think the whole world has recognized that Ocala is the equestrian capital of the world. You have a ton of new industrial development coming here. I think everyone recognizes the advantage to building within the Ocala and the I-75 corridor area, all of Marion County. And so there's going to bring a lot of industry here as they continue to leverage this area to better connect places like Jacksonville, Tampa, Orlando, all of South Florida, or unlocking all of South Florida to the rest of the country. And so we have got to do a good job here in Ocala, not just navigating these changes effectively and building a strong community of leaders, but also working to retain our talent here locally. When I work with the kids at my local high school and I'm training them, and I work with the adults here talking leadership, is we want to grow strong leaders within our community that are going to be competitive for opportunities with people from across the country. And this is very important for me. And I want to continue to do my best to leverage our Marion County and Ocala community and to help build strong leaders here. That is my vision. We want to build a very strong talent pool, and so we're not always having to look externally and recruit people from outside of our hometowns. Uh, Cohesive teams are going to come into this conversation because individuals have got to choose to work together towards a shared vision. You got to respect each other's strengths. You got to choose to collaborate, and choose to work towards overcoming challenges. It's like being in any relationship. I tell people all the time, you can't make someone love you. You can't make Of course, you can make somebody do something. When I was in the service, I unfortunately either was made or did unfortunately convince people to do things that maybe they didn't always want to do. And there could be a fear if you did not do it, there was going to be some serious consequences. But if you can get people to choose you, if you can get people to choose to love you, to choose to serve with you, to choose to work with you, to choose to collaborate with you and to combine with you, then you are going to find that's where the true progress is going to happen, and you're going to build a team that is just remarkable. And that's exactly what I want to focus on today. Not trying to convince people to do something because of some nasty consequence, because even though that's true, leadership is about bringing people together and they choose to be led, right? That's ultimately the goal. Step one, how do you do that? You got to have trust, and trust is going to be critical in everything that we do with people. Human beings want to be trusted, and they want to be able to put their trust in other people. That's just a fact. Unfortunately, people have been taught to distrust, to not trust, to not want to trust, and we have to overcome that as leaders. It's just how it is. And step one, trust yourself. You've got to trust yourself. If you don't trust yourself and what you're doing, then you're going to struggle. Um, Trust can be defined in a lot of different ways. My favorite way to define trust is the willingness to rely upon other people's actions. I have got to put myself in a position where I'm willing to rely upon you, and I have got to put some trust in you. Does that mean I'm going to give you blind trust? No. Does that mean I'm going to give you just a blank check of trust? Probably not. But I'm going to choose to trust you, and in return, I would like to see that reciprocated, depending upon the results of how things are going, right? We have got to choose to take some risk. We've got to choose to place our belief in things and have faith that it's going to work out, and know that the people that are on your team are going to have your back. That you got to feel confident that they're going to follow through on their commitments, and that the commitment that we're all going to make to each other to get something done is going to be the priority for everyone that's there. We've got to be able to we got to know our strengths. You have to know your own strengths and weaknesses, and so that way you can best explain that to your other members of your team. And you've got to be confident in your ability to make good decisions. And step one with that is knowing that your north star, your north star, right? This thing that guides you throughout the day has got to be ethical decision making. I published one of my blog posts this week, and it's about ethical decision making. Because if your ethics are not in aligned with what you're doing day in and day out, you're going to be struggling. You're going. If I used to listen to people when I was in the service, they would say, "Hey, I'm a sailor when I'm at home, or I'm a military service member when I'm at work. But when I go home, I'm just myself." And that just doesn't make sense for me, because how can you be two completely different people where your ethics in one space conflict completely with your ethics in another place? You have got to be able to be the same person all the time, and in order for people to trust you. At least that's what I've found. If you change it up, then they're going to struggle in trusting you. There was a study done this year in 2024 by a group called the McKinsey and Company, and I looked into this study because, I wanted to know, is there anything recent that came back out to validate once again that organizational success is tied to just trust? And that's exactly what they found. They discovered that employees are more likely to trust their leaders when they feel informed and when they feel included in decision-making processes. Now, that sounds good, right? We would all love to include our people in decision-making processes, but time doesn't always allow, or There may not always be, space for all of the people to be involved in making of the sausage, but when you can, you should get your people's inputs. You should give them the opportunity to put their 2 cents in, if you will, and you have to be able to communicate back to them transparently why you don't go with their recommendations, especially if you ask for it. Especially if you ask for it, and if they do give you recommendations, take some time to actually listen and give them feedback so they can understand if they're on the right track or if there is something that they can do differently to be better aligned with you, or if they're missing something very important, because a lot of leadership is about understanding the perspective of the long term. It's not always about the short term plan. That's more of a manager's role. Leaders need to be thinking about where are we going, not just for the next 2 to 3 weeks to month, but what's the long range vision and how are we going to get there. Another researcher I read through recently is named Brené Brown. And Brené Brown was talking about how important it is to be vulnerable as a leader. None of us are perfect. None of us are perfect. We all make mistakes. We all have bad days. We all need to be able to show our human side, admit that, uh, we need to rely upon one another, and that we need to be able to leverage our people and let them leverage us in return. And if we can do that, we're going to be looked at as more trustworthy and relatable, especially when you can admit, hey, I don't really quite understand why we're going to do something, but here's what the end state's going to be, and here's why we need to get there. And this is what we've been given to do it with. And time does not allow for us to just question everything. Instead, we just need to get the job done. And then afterwards, and I learned this lesson a long time ago in basic training. You know, one of my drill instructors was supposed to go away with his family for the weekend, and he had told me all about it. I was at the end of basic training, and so we were talking a lot more candidly with our drill instructors. And I remember he walked in the door that Saturday night. I was up and all watching our little quarterdeck area, and I said, Chief, well, I thought you were going with your family this weekend. What are you doing here? And he said, well, Wise, uh, I have duty now. I said, well, you didn't know you had duty before. And he says, something happened, something changed, but now I've got duty. And I was like, well, that sounds tough. He says, you know what? I'm going to stand my duty, and then I'm going to go in there on Monday morning. I'm going to communicate how this could have been handled better, and how it caused my family's plans to be affected, and that I didn't appreciate that. He said, but if I could give you a piece of advice for your time in the service, it's that when things happen beyond your control, I would not be the person who just immediately complains. I would be the person that takes it on board, gets it done, handles their business. Then I would come back with good feedback as well as perspective as to how it could have been done differently in the future. So they look at you as being part of the solution, as not part of the problem. I learned that with not even 7 weeks into the military, and I've used that every problem, every opportunity since then. And being authentic is something that we have got to be when it comes to leadership. We cannot pretend to have all the answers. It's just not going to work. Uh, One other area that I was reading in this week, is this. It's a perspective called the trust equation, written by Mr. Charles Green, or Charlie Green, I guess he goes by. And the trust equation is a mathematical equation, right? He breaks it down into four key variables. He says, you have a top and a bottom, a numerator and a denominator, I guess you could say. And he says the top is going to be a mathematical equation of a person's credibility, the reliability, and the intimacy score. And then beneath the line, is going to be their self orientation. And he talks about the importance of having a self orientation score not being too high. So the top is going to be essentially the person you're trying to figure out, how much can I trust you? So, for example, if my follower is looking to me to see if they can trust me, a few things they're going to be looking for. Number one, am I credible? Right? Do I have the credibility that they want to lend me their trust? If I'm a leader, for example, do I have an experience? Do I have an education? Do I have maybe a credential such as the RBLP leadership credential? Do I have just proven track record of doing the things that I say that I'm going to do? And that's the C. Now, the next piece of that's going to be reliability. It's going to be, do my actions match my words? Do my actions match the things that I'm projecting to the team? Is there a say-do match, or is there a say-do mismatch? And that reliability is going to be crucial because they've got to know, okay, yes, you're credible. You're credible because all these different things say you're credible. Your education, your background, your resume, your credentials, your leadership certification, your all these different things say you're credible. But reliable is something that I'm going to depend upon really, and it's name recognition. It's going to be your reputation, right? It's going to be proven. And then the third piece of that is going to be the intimacy. How is it when you and I get together and speak one on one? Is there a space where we can actually communicate? Is there a space where you actually listen? Is there a space where you actually have a no problem going deep with me and not just surface? That is going to matter because if I'm going to give you a piece of my trust, then I'm going to need to know that you're not going to take it for granted. But then underneath that line is going to be my self orientation or the follower's self orientation, and that's going to be how do they think of themselves. And I'll tell you, if they think too much of themselves, they're going to have a hard time giving up trust. Humility is a big factor when it comes to trust. I've seen people project giving trust, but all they really wanted to do is micromanage the entire thing. I've seen people project giving up trust, but all they really wanted to do was give up the blame. They didn't really want to give up the trust. They wanted to wash their hands of something and let someone else be the one responsible. And so there's a balance here. And the one thing I will say when it comes to being on a team and working together is that we all win if we don't care who gets the credit. I mean, I found that time and time again. The people that are worried about getting their name on the dotted line as far as I get the credit for this event, unfortunately, don't always make the best team members. They really don't. I've found the best team members are the ones who want to go to work, the ones who are not afraid to get dirty, the ones who are not afraid to get down there and put the work in. And then they trust that when the credit comes out, it's going to get distributed appropriately throughout the entire team. And that's going to matter. And I will tell you, focusing on the needs of others is really going to be the way to live your life. Gratitude is the space to always come from, at least in my mind. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying be naive. I'm not saying don't do your best to take opportunity of situations that you see as being once in a lifetime chances. Because if you're on my team and you communicate to me why you want to take that opportunity, I'm probably going to cheer for you. I'm probably going to be happy for you because ultimately, if it's for you, that's great. That's great. And if your cards are face up and we're all playing on the same team, no problem. Right. And that's how trust is healthy for people. And, Joe Campa, or at least I was taught this. I was taught that Joe Campa, who was a Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy when I first made Chief in 2006, he said, or at least I was told that he said, that no true Chief Petty Officer should ever feel threatened by another true Chief. They should feel inspired. And so whenever you feel yourself becoming threatened by a peer, what you really got to do is check your own insecurity at the door. Why are you so insecure? Or why? What is it about that situation that your trust is unfortunately kind of fractured? A few basic strategies for building trust within your team. Number one, give trust. You got to give trust to get trust. If they don't see you giving trust to other people, then they're going to probably struggle to trust you. Number two, you got to listen. You got to listen. You have to breathe, let them talk, listen, ask questions that validate your listening, and do your best to understand where they're coming from and understand why they're bringing this information up to you and actually be thankful they are because the fact that they're talking probably means you're doing a decent job as a leader. Uh, be empathetic. Empathy is my favorite space to operate from besides gratefulness as a leader. I don't have to feel sorry for you. Matter of fact, I don't feel sorry for you. We all got opportunities in life to improve and to progress and to make things happen. But man, I can almost always relate. I can almost always understand what you're going through. And then I want to almost always help. Uh, and that's where empathy is a superpower for a leader. Another thing is, open and honest communication. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't use special, flowery words. Don't play political games. Just say what you got to say. Say what they got to hear. They may not always like it, but you know what? That's just how it goes. And be open if they want to communicate back to you. Professional communication is critical, right? We're not sitting here just cussing each other out and having a stupid argument. That's just not going to work, right? But if there is significant concern, significant frustration, significant energy, don't just write them off as being emotional. I hate when I hear that. Oh, they're just an emotional person. Negative. They're passionate, they care, and we need to listen to them, because if they stop caring, we're going to have even bigger problems. Um, if you say you're going to do something, stand on it. If you say you're going to do something, stand on it. The students are always talking about standing on business, right? You got to stand on your business. You got to be a person who stands on their word. If you say that you're going to do something, you need to make sure that it happens. And if you can't do it the way that you had originally planned, or if things aren't going to go the way that you had thought they were going to go, you got to be prepared to communicate that when people ask you the questions. They're simple. These are simple, powerful ways. These are the ways you're going to build trust. They're going to create strong foundations for your team. And just remember, being yourself, being honest, being consistent is going to be the key. I've learned that as a leader, there's just way too much going on to try to pretend you're something that you're not, and that you're going to fumble that ball. So instead, be authentic, be honest, be consistent, and just stand by your word. Now moving from the idea of building trust, super important. We're ultimately trying to get to a team that's cohesive, that wants to bridge together, that wants to glue together, that wants to be together. So this next thing is going to be collaborating. When I was a training team member at the float training group there in San Diego, my job was to go out and train shipboard companies in damage control. I was a damage controlman for 16 years in the Navy, where our job, because the damage control group of people on board a ship is less than 5% of the crew. But 100% of the crew has got to know how to do damage control. They've all got to know how to save themselves, how to fight a fire, how to slow down a flooding ship, how to keep the ship above the waterline, right? We all got to know that. And so this very small portion of the crew has got to be able to teach everybody the importance of this skill and how to do it. And what I learned is by doing these training evolutions, you really build strong teams. And so when I think about collaboration, I think about ways to put my teams in places where they can talk and they can get to know one another outside of just doing their job. And they can work on things that are not just the normal day to day job, but it's going to give them the opportunity to show all their different strengths, all their different perspectives, and they can build trust with one another and respect with one another on things, not just doing their particular job per se, but doing other parts of a job in which they can all work to achieve a shared goal, like putting out a fire, like patching a pipe, like just surviving the night. It's a real concern when you're on board a ship, and everyone has got to be able to pitch in and help. And we've also got to remember that you don't always get to pick your team. It sounds good. Oh man, if I was a team leader, if I was a team manager of a team, I'm going to make sure I get all these people. My experience has been I typically get who I get. Whether it's been the students at my school, whether it's been the people on my fire team, whether it was the different chiefs in my mess, whether it was the all across the board. I usually almost always I get the people that just check on board, and then you work with what you got, and that's okay, right? Everybody's going to bring some value to the table. Everyone is going to bring value, especially if you can't immediately see it. Uh, I used to tell people that I really built my career in the Navy off of the DCPO shop, right? Because I was a person who was in charge of a bunch of TAD people that a lot of other divisions didn't always care for, and they would send them to ER9 because they they had to send somebody, and they may not want to send me their very best person. And I don't blame them. I wasn't sending all my best bodies TAD all the time. Right? I was keeping my best people with me, but I would get these sailors from all these other divisions on board the ship, and I would figure out ways to excite them about the job, about the opportunity, about the position, because their job on the board of the ship was to do all of the basic damage control maintenance, the firefighting extinguishers and the bottles and the doors and the hatches and the scuttles and the ladders and the space inspections. And I can go on and on and on. There was just so much maintenance for these sailors to do. But once you can get them all aligned on the same goal, and they would start to feel like what they were doing was valuable, they were happy to contribute. And when everyone feels like their contribution matters, we are all going to win. everyone will be winning if everyone feels like what they're doing matters. And so, how do we encourage this collaboration to take place? Again, first off, we gotta facilitate open communication. We've got to give people the chance to all talk and make sure that the talking, the communicating is productive, right? We're actually sharing knowledge. We're actually making sure that everybody understands what's going on, and we've got to empower people on the team to contribute, right? We've got to put them in position for them to do something that they can build credibility with. Again, it goes back to, do I have credibility? Have I been given opportunities to show that I'm reliable? Have I been put in positions yet to show that we can have a strong conversation, and I'm not afraid to tell you about what my fears are, what my goals are, what I would like to get out of this team building opportunity? And if we can get there, it's going to work. And a lot of times people are going to talk about the whole creating a culture where everyone feels valued and heard. But here's the thing: it's not cliche. That's a fact. That's leadership. It's not about some of the buzzwords that are happening in society today. It's saying, hey, look, I've got you 10 people on my team, and I care about each one of you, and each one of you has a valued perspective. And it was like that when I was a DC2 or a second class petty officer in the Navy running a DCPO shop of 11, 12, 13 people. And when I was a command master chief living on a naval installation on a small island in the South Pacific Ocean, dealing with thousands of people. It's just, the goal is to try to provide a space for everyone to kind of contribute. uh, Collaboration is always going to extend beyond a single team as well. One of my favorite examples for this is going to be our ships that were in the service, the school, right? The school that I'm currently working at, right? Collaboration. If it was just my ROTC program, then the school would not be fully, I would say, being represented, because there's so much more than just the ROTC program. You have the International Bachelorette program, you have the sports teams, you have the art programs, you have the other STEM programs, you have the dance team, you got the cheerleaders, you got so many facets of this organization that make up our high school community, that if you want to get the full picture as to how much stuff is really happening on this team every day, you have got to look at all of those things. And you've got to look at all of the multi-level teams that are all the different classes that are taking place, where all these different groups are actually commingling, co-collaborating, and working together to build a community that's not just going to come to the school for 4 years together, but it's also going to live in this community for possibly the rest of their lives. We're going to see each other at football games on the weekends, and we're going to have this shared experience for forever. And you want to build that in your community. You want to build that in your team, in your organization. And so that way, if people decide to move on to other things, or to grow within your organization, there's always this sense of kinship and this sense of loyalty to that shared experience. We want to make sure that there's just not a lot of silos. We can't have people, hiding the information and trying to prevent other people from getting access to the things they need to succeed. We just, we, it does not do anybody any good. And here in Ocala and Marion County, especially, we've got to work together to make sure that everybody is getting access to the information so we can all be on the same page. There's going to be an overwhelming amount of opportunities coming to our community. That's great. Let's not be mad about that. Let's be excited about that. How can we best support them and inject our local people here so that we can all grow together and welcome all the people that are coming in? Because if it's going to happen, let's work with it and not try to slow it down. Um, one challenge, of course, you're going to have to deal with is going to be conflict. Navigating conflict is going to be a challenge for everyone. I'm not afraid of conflict. I'm not. I think that it's healthy. I think that understanding that conflict is going to happen, and just understanding it should not be personal. If it's personal, that's different. Really, conflict within the program, within the team, is going to be a path to getting better. You're going to look at, well, why are they conflicting? What is the problem? Is there really a problem, or are they just passionately having two different perspectives? And if you handle this appropriately, this is going to lead to growth, and it's going to lead to innovation. And that is your job as a leader. Your job is to not just look the other way from the conflict. It's not. If you're doing that, you're not leading. If you're leading afraid because you're afraid to have a tough conversation, again, you're not leading. You're probably managing a problem, and you're probably not meeting someone else's expectations of what you should be doing. You have got to be able to get into there, listen to both sides, appreciate that they all care enough to engage and work towards a solution, and then figure out a way to address it proactively and create the space where people are all going to be able to vent. They're going to be able to express their concerns, and you're going to be able to say, okay, we all heard it. This is what we're talking about. This is interesting conversation. I'm not mad at it. But now, and this is one of our things from the Chiefs mess, we would have this saying that, when we come to the mess, we all have our different opinions. But then that's all said and done, we're going to slap the table and we're all going to go in the same direction. And if we do that, we're going to find success. And when we don't do that is when we struggle. And it's the same thing for your team. You have got to be able to show them all of those inputs mattered, all those perspectives mattered. Now here's what we're going to do, and that's what makes you the leader, and them not yet. And someday they might get to that point. But for right now, if you're the one with the job, you're the one with the position, you got to handle your business. Right. And it's your job to navigate that conflict effectively. And it's your job to guide them out of it and not just let them wallow in this conflict. You've got to demonstrate empathy. You've got to have the active listening. You've got to guide them all towards this thought process of it's a win-win, right? We're all going to win. Again, if we don't care who gets the credit, we're all going to win if we can achieve our goal. And then if there are lessons learned, we can either incorporate them. We can use after action reports or ways to communicate up the chain that we want to change some things, or better yet, maybe we just don't do these things next time because we learned our lesson the hard way, right? We just got to make sure that the communication is constructive, and we've got to mediate those disagreements to do to our best. And for the people that are just going to be sour grapes and they don't want to get over it, they need to learn. That's just how it is, because life is not going to wait for people to get over things sometimes. And the show is going to go on. I tell this to my students all the time. The mission is going to happen. If we said we're going to do something, then we're going to do it. Well, what if these 3 people quit? Then I get 3 more people to step up, and we're going to go. There's no such thing as a person who's a make or break for the whole team. If you're in that position where you've got a red line, or you've got a one person that can only do something, your team does not have the depth that it needs, and you're at risk, right? You have got to have a team that everyone understands that we all want to win. We don't care who gets the credit. We're all value added, and we're always cross training. And so if you have a bad day, or if you can't make it, or you are unfortunately you've got a challenge, we will cover down for you. We will back you up, and we will be okay. And we will not hold it against you later, right? Now we might talk a little smack here and there. That's just what we do. But that's okay. It's okay. It's really out of love. It's not out of trying to do something mean. And you've got to manage that, right? Moving on, I talk a lot about RBLP and the Resilience Building Leadership Professional Certification Program because, man, it's so important that you can speak to the things that I just spoke about. If you're a person who's already doing these things, everything that I just said, right? If I didn't say anything new to you, okay, well, my question would be, could you have said it back to me? And if you could, why are you not certified? Like, get the certification. You should have this certification. Nothing is going to help your credibility more than walking in the room already as a certified leadership trainer, period. Whether you're a coach, whether you're a trainer, whether you're even just a professional. You don't need to go get another freaking master's degree in something. You don't need to spend 3-4 years to get another college degree. You don't have to spend 20 years or spend thousands. Just all kinds of money to get all these different leadership books read. If you can have the conversation today with me, and I can sharpen you up enough to where you're ready to go sit down with a PhD in leadership and tell them everything that I just spoke to you about, plus a whole bunch of other things. Because let's be honest, the oral exam for the RBLP certifications are not a 30-minute conversation. No, you have got to be able to go for 2 hours to 3 hours talking leadership and talking leadership at the executive level. You have got to be able to sit down and explain not just your experiences, because you've got to have those, not just your knowledge, but you got to have that. But you got to also be able to explain how you're going to communicate all of this stuff together to accomplish the end goal. But if you could do that and you get that certification, that's going to just level up your credibility in ways that you, it's changing the landscape, right? And I say that because in the military, we were always complaining about how there was all these different kinds of leadership trainings, whether it was chiefs initiation training or it was petty officer indoctrination training. And now that I'm a teacher, there's a bunch of different teacher leadership trainings and a bunch of local leadership trainers you can go to or leadership coaches you can hire. But what is the value they're really offering to you after the training? I love good training like anybody. I love training people. It is definitely one of my favorite things to do. But why I got involved with the leadership certification training business is because it's the value you get once you get the certification. It's a 36-month professional certification that now gives you freaking college credits if you need that. It gives you the fact that you can walk in the room and you've got the credential behind your name, and it's proven that this is going to matter in the future. I spent years working on my education. I looked at multiple credentials that I could get in the civilian sector as I was preparing to transition out of the military. And I chose RBLP just because I love the fact that it is a professional leadership certification. And I love that I got to sit down across the table from a person who is a PhD in leadership. And I got to communicate to them that I know everything that I need to know to achieve this certification. Oh, by the way, the federal government they support the certification, and I think that matters because they're the ones that standardize all the certifications, right? People could say, well, I don't really need the Department of Labor, or I don't need the VA, or I don't need the GI Bill. Well, then you're going to say the same thing for anything. You're going to say the same thing for a high school diploma. You're going to say the same thing for a college degree. You're going to tell me that you don't need a piece of paper for any of those uh, proven areas that you completed something. But what I'm going to tell you is society and the marketplace is going to dictate that, right? That's who's going to dictate it. And yeah, you can be very successful in life without a high school diploma. That's true. I dropped out of high school at 15. I didn't realize I had a diploma until I was a second class petty officer. I got my GED when I joined the Navy, right? When I got my master's degree, it wasn't really because I thought it was going to help me be a better, more qualified employee for somebody in the future. I honestly got it because I just wanted to continue to grow in my leadership and in my training. When I got my RBLP certification, I was afraid of the unknown. I wasn't quite sure what was going to be out there for me when I left the service, but I knew that I wanted something that was going to help translate my years of experience into what I'd been doing on top of where I was going. And this is what I think is the benefit that I offer to all the people that I work with to prepare for the leadership certification. As we could take all your experience that you've already done and we can put that into perspective. And then we can figure out how to sharpen you up so you can sit down for that conversation and you can convince your examiner that you have the fundamental knowledge, you've got the key skills, you've got the key experiences, and you fully understand every facet of what you need to know to receive this awesome certification that the federal government, that the Department of Labor, that the American Council on Education have all given this equal level of credit to. And that way, once you walk on the door and you talk to a new follower, they're going to say, "Oh wow, you're an RBLP T. Wow, you're a coach, you're a trainer. Oh wow, if you decide you want to change to a different occupation, you can carry that with you. You can go back to your work to the place you're currently serving at and say, hey, look, boss, I got this certification on my downtime because I care that I can continuously improve and I want to continue to grow within our team and I want to bring valuable to the organization." You could talk to your followers about how you're working to continuously improve yourself, which is going to build your credibility. You can give them access to the information, which is going to build your reliability. These are all the things that you're going to be doing to help hopefully lead by example and distribute trust. Uh, and that's what it's all about ultimately for me as a leader is leading by example, giving people a space to perform and to do great things and to be here for them when they need anything. Right. So if you're ready to take your leadership to the next level, especially in Ocala, especially in Marion County, if you're down here at Bellevue, if you're down here, Gainesville, Citrus County, I'm here for you. I'm here to talk to you, to hear your story, to hear what you've already done, and to help you figure out if you're ready to get certified as a leadership, uh, as a leader, right? As a resilience building leader, right? And are you able to help coach somebody to be better? Are you able to prove that you can take a team of people to find successful solutions? And that's what we do here at Wise Leadership Solutions. It's simple, it's plain, that's my message. I do it every day for my kids in my high school class, and it's what I love to do. And I would love to work with you. And if you ever have any questions about anything that I've spoken about, if you would ever like to get together and talk about leadership, which is my passion, please hit me up or come through RBLP or go to my website at wiseleadershipsolutions.com. And we would love to hear from you. Thank you if you watched this. I really appreciate it. Thank you for anybody who took the time to listen. I'm sorry it wasn't a live event like I had hoped for it to be, but you know what? Time, speed, distance, right? Things happen. You gotta make some changes. You gotta roll with the audibles, and you gotta fight like hell to not reschedule things, right? Because this is how it goes. So I would much rather get it out to you early, get it out to you so maybe you can watch it and take advantage of it. Hopefully you're planning strong for 2025. Patrick Bet David made one of the best statements the other day in his podcast. He said, while everybody else is sitting here thinking about how they're going to close out 2024, I'm already planning for 2025. That's exactly where I want you to be. Don't just be celebrating the close of one year. I really want you to be excited about 2025. And if I can do anything to help you out with that, let me know. I'd be interested in helping you. Thank you very much for everything. And I hope you all have a great Christmas. Merry Christmas. I hope to see people out there tonight at Church of Hope. We're coming to hang out with you guys out at Christmas at the farm. And if I don't see you soon, talk to you next time. Happy New Year.